Welcome to DU Digimon.
Hello, and welcome to DU Digimon, and welcome to Jank Tank, the Champions. In this tournament, our final Jank Tank of the year, we are bringing back as many of the previous champions as we can to pit them all against each other to see who is truly the greatest Jank deck of all time. And that is Jank deck with inverted quotation marks. Inverted commas, I should say. Because we weren't planning to do a Champions Tournament at the beginning of the year. Strap on in, we've got some updates for the rule set. So what we are doing is we are bringing back all of the previous champions. Obviously, we're also allowing other people to participate as well. We're not just having the winners participate because that would be kind of unfair. But all of the previous winning people have to bring back their previous decks. And essentially what will happen is the person who wins will have their deck banned from Jank Tank forever, for all of time. Potentially, I don't know, maybe. I feel like that's the dramatic YouTube thing to do, but I also feel like that'd be kind of unfair if someone spent money on a deck and then they can never use it again, other than in, like, you know, casuals, which seems unfair. But they do get a lovely mat. I mean, look at this bad boy. This was designed by Leo with input from myself, but mainly all Leo's. You know, basically me just going, yeah, can you try this? Can you do this instead? But this was all Leo's design. Look at all of that lovely artwork, lovely colouring. None of the guys know that we've done this either, other than Leo, obviously. And the winner will be going away with this lovely mat. I mean, it's so good. I genuinely would like to sell them. It's that good. Obviously, we don't have an online store, but one day we might. But I think it's freaking cool. And I can't wait to give it to whoever our winner is. Although it's probably going to be Charles, for reasons we'll get into if you know your Jank Tank history. But anyways, the updated rule set for the Jank Tank tournament is going to be as follows. So rule number 1 is all the winning players must bring back a deck that they won with. If they had multiple wins, then they must choose at least one of those decks, obviously, and then they'll just have to kind of save the other for another time. For myself and Alex, we had to choose between our respective decks, though I will get into something with Alex's where essentially he kind of didn't have a choice, which is really upsetting, and we'll get into why in a bit. But also what would be a case of any kind of other participating players who have not won the tournament throughout the year essentially just bring back a deck of their choosing that has been either Jank tier or Rogue tier sometime during the past year. You know, so it could be a multitude of different things. Usually going to be stuff that's going to be consistently in those tiers, which is what the two non-champions participating have brought. We've currently got 7 players for this champions tourney because we've got an odd number of champions, and it's a bit awkward because of the Christmas period. We've got people, you know, working chef jobs, working retail, and it's all a bit, you know, awkward. So I'm hoping we'll get an 8th player, but currently 7 lists at our disposal. Then rule number 2 is, although we brought the meta engine rule as of Jank Tank 6 when I played Skull Hybrid, we're being a bit more loose with it this time around, just because of the decks that are being allowed in this tournament. Again, we'll get into that, unless you know your Jank Tank history, in which case you're probably just saying in the comments below, oh my god, what are you thinking? And then rule number 3 is the holy or unholy trinity of Death X, Quartzmon and Ruin Mode are all still banned from the tournament. But everything else, other than what is you know, limited or banned by Bandai, is fair play. But this being our first Champions tourney, admittedly it does have some balancing issues with the decks that are being, you know, put to the front. Obviously, back when we first started Jank Tank, it was just like a non-meta tournament. It didn't really have a rule set. It was just like, yeah, just don't bring a meta deck. You know, which at the end of 2023 was like basically, you know, anything that wasn't Mirage. You know, anything that wasn't Mirage or Numemon, just don't bring that. You know, and it was a little bit more loose. Whereas now, obviously, we've got defined rules set around a tier list that we always do. So next year's Champions Tourney should be a much better, a more balanced kind of affair. But this year, kind of a hot mess. But I think it's still going to be fun, and we've all come up with some really cool lists to kind of showcase in this tournament. And now we're going to go into our returning champions, and the reason why I've been saying unbalance this and and unbalance that is all because of our first champion. And our first champion, of course, was Imperialdramon. Charles won the very first Jank Tank. It was Imperialdramon versus Aegis in the finals. Both were undefeated. And unfortunately, Aegis just could not deal with Imperialdramon at all. And I fear none of our decks will, but we're all going to give it a go. And you guys, please, if you're angry about Imperialdramon being allowed back, just hold on. Hold up now. Because of the fact that we, obviously we didn't plan for Jank Tank the Champions back when Imperialdramon won. Like I said, Jank Tank in the beginning was just a non-meta tourney. That's all it was, and it was well before we realised BT16 was going to make Imperialdramon fucking busted. So, it was just a case of kind of, do we, we tried to think of ways to balance it. So we tried to go, okay, should we use the list that we originally won with? You could, but then that gives a unfair advantage to the newer decks. So if we go all the way back and use the list for Imperialdramon, that gives the newer stuff, so red-purple Imperialdramon, for example, that will have its partition still, because it won at the time it had that support, whereas Imperialdramon didn't, so that's not really fair. Also, we didn't have a record of the list from the beginning of Jank Tank, so we didn't keep those lists because back then we didn't bother. We didn't have, we didn't plan Jank Tank to become an actual series. We just kind of named it and went, here's the Jank Tank, and then it became a series, and we've kind of gone from there. And it's become a lot more of a fine-tuned thing as things have gone on, but we couldn't do that either. We then thought, what about if we banned cards from each other? That was a logistic nightmare because trying to get that from everyone was going to be incredibly difficult. Just arranging this tournament has been a pain in my arse, frankly. So doing that wasn't really going to work. So it just eventually became a case of, well, we'll just play the decks as they are, and we'll just try and tech for the things we know are super scary. So this is Charles's list. It hasn't changed since he won Evo Cup a month or two ago. And the fact is, if Pulsemon can take it to a draw, which I did in that tournament, I believe in the Jank decks. I think the Jank decks can prove, the thing is in Digimon, yes, you've clearly got better decks than others. Absolutely. However, you'd be surprised what things can counterplay the others. The only sad thing I have with this tournament is, and we'll get into reasons why, the deck I was hoping would be the main counter to this, and it was a Jank Tank champion, is not making an appearance in this Champions tourney. But like I say, we'll get into why in just a second. The next deck for Jank Tank 2, the winner, of course, was Dan and Secon. So Secon, he got Secon through on a technicality, essentially, and because I think it was Jank Tank 2 we first started doing the tier lists. So we started doing the tier lists for Jank Tank 2 onwards, and he found a loophole because Secon wasn't pictured, because how do you picture Secon as a deck? There's not like a single card that you could say, yeah, that's Secon. So he brought it through on a technicality. He made a somewhat janky version of it, but it was ultimately just Secon. And again, why we needed to bring in more kind of meta relevant rules, which back then we brought it back in, then we took it away, and then we brought it back because I was naughty. But anyways, this is his Secon list. It's basically Mother Control, but frankly, Mother Control and Secon are kind of interchangeable at this point. Mother Control's kind of become what Secon was in the meta, So, and I said to him, look, because we've got Imperialdramon, I think you're okay to play it as Mother Control. I also said that if the others didn't like that, then he would change that. But so far, no one has said anything about that. However, that might change tomorrow, and by which time that'll be too late. So, yeah, it's just one of those things. But he's playing it with some Lucemon techs in here. He's obviously got lots of aces as well, so that's going to be fun. The thing that I find the weirdest thing in here is the fact that he's got the hybrids, because the Metal Capitarimon can't hybrid on top of anything, because Shoto and Kari are not the right colours, and the Kaiserleomon can on Kari, but they're just odd. They've got great on plays, the Edge of 1 and Delete at level 4, but they're also kind of, I mean, Retaliation Blocker in Harris Walls, that's good as well. But if you're hard playing them, the ace targets for the Magnamon, for the Magnarandramon. Yeah, no, I'm seeing more ways to justify it. Although the Ukamon's weird. The Ukamon is weird in this specific list because he's got D-Reaper. That I do find weird. But we'll see how it goes. Setcon is a scary and very annoying list, and as is Mother Control. Whether or not they're different decks at this point, who knows? But this is what he's built. I don't want to argue. The next winner of Jank Tank was, of course, me. It was me with Marsmon. So I had the choice of bringing either Marsmon or Skull Hybrid, and in kind of keeping with Jank's spirit, I decided to bring Marsmon. I also decided to bring Marsmon because I've been cooking this list since I came up with the idea of doing a Champions Tourney, which we're talking maybe like we're in November currently when filming this. Actually, Jank Tank 7 is coming out at the time I'm recording this. So I think I've been cooking this list since about July. June, July, I think, because I got really excited. I was like, we should do a Champions Tourney. Oh my god, this would be amazing. This would be so good. It'd be so fun. And then didn't think about the balancing issues. But that's that was a problem for future me, and now it's a problem for now me. But Marsmon this is what I've come up with. Still keeping some of the Bird's Beast kind of text that I used before, so the Biamon and the Birdramon, just so you can get that memory with your Marsmon. The moment you've removed a security, you gain memory. You can swing turn back to yourself. But I've also added in some of the Legend Arms stuff, so the Zubamons, Spartamons, Zubarigamons, Duramons, and the one copy of Durandamon. Because they work extraordinarily well with Marsmon, they just give you free piercing, which is great. Well, a kind of free piercing. Obviously, you've got to put something underneath one of the other Legend Arms. But with a Sakutamon egg, you can mitigate the cost of that, so it basically can become free. The Duramons can give you an extra security tap +1, and if you've got the Duramon and a Grappleomon or two Duramons in the same stack, you're going to be doing the attack target switch. You trash 2 security, you've got the security tap +1, you're doing 2 more checks, you've got a tie-on field potentially, you're doing 5 checks, you unsuspend as well, and if you manage to swing turn back to yourself, you can then just swing for game with Marsmon. I've OTK'd with Marsmon, just Marsmon, in this list. And then we've got some backups in the form of the Omnimons in case we need an extra swing there. And of course, if we've not managed to kill them, the Crimson Mode Ace to potentially threaten and clear their board. So this is a list I've cooked up a lot. There are some changes to it I've made based around this meta. So I've got the Floodgates, which I put in there purely for kind of stopping memory gain from stuff like Imperialdramon and with the BT12 DNA stuff. Preventing partition potentially, although the main kind of way we're deleting stuff in this is battle, so partition won't really come up for us anyway. But the Gotsumon does really help us in a matchup against the Jank Tank 5 winner, who we'll get into next. Reason being is the Jank Tank 4 winner, Diaboromon, will not be making an appearance because Alex decided to bring red-purple Imperialdramon, which we'll get into the list in a minute. But essentially the reason he didn't bring Diaboromon is kind of tragic. He lent the deck to someone and they really didn't take care of it. That's all I'm going to say. I don't name names. I don't, the damage is done. Naming names is not going to change that. But it's not great. You don't, if you're lending your deck to someone, you need to look after it. So, and Diaboromon's not cheap to replace. Just the tokens on their own are like £20 to £25 each, I think, last time I checked. So a real shame that that's happened. I did offer to Alex if he wanted to borrow my Diaboromon list, but ultimately he's been very busy right now, so he preferred to go with a deck he's better practice with, and obviously Jank Tank 7 was like I say, it's currently releasing at the time we're recording this, so it was only a month ago that he was playing playing that, so he decided to bring that instead. I did also offer to another player if they wanted to play Diaboromon to represent it, but they couldn't build the deck in time, so unfortunately Diaboromon not making an appearance, but we will see it again in the future. Obviously once this Champions Tourney is over, we're going to be bringing any sort of Champions decks which have not won this tournament will be legal again, so we'll be bringing back Diaboromon for sure. And to be fair, I can just make appearances on the channel as and when, but it would be great to see Diaboromon in this tournament, but very sad reasons as to why we cannot. But on to Jank Tank 5's champion. And Jank Tank 5 was won by Sam, and Aegisdramon. And Aegisdramon is another one I think could be a sleeper hit against stuff like Imperialdramon. It can move surprisingly quick. It has a lot of board control. It has a lot of swarming potential, a lot of jamming. It's got some unsuspension stuff. It's really good. I mean, it can get rid of the partition potentially with the Zudomons and with the Sorais. It could de-digivolve with the Vikemon. Yeah, it's going to be really good. The one thing that Sam hasn't done, which I did, is he's not given himself a backup with the mental trainings, where essentially if you use a mental training and BT16 Imperialdramon is out, it triggers its effect because you've digivolved via an effect. So what I did is I put a backup in there, which is I've got 3 copies of offense training but 2 copies of red memory boost as a backup, so I have a way of kind of mitigating cost. Sam hasn't done that, but he has got other ways of gaining memory, such as the Bukamon BT7 egg and the Warusidramon from BT11. So he's definitely got ways of mitigating that still, and Aegisdramon is a super spooky deck. It did very well in Jank Tank 5, you know, and he can just clear boards with that Jank Pengmon. Jank Peng is spooky. Obviously, if he does that against something like with Partition, they'll just come straight back. But you know what? I don't think this deck really cares about that, because it will just then bounce whatever partitioned out. So yeah, Aegisdramon is going to be scary. Then obviously Jank Tank 6 is not taking part because I'm playing Marsmon, but we'll get on to Alex's red, purple Imperialdramon list, and you'll notice that this list is identical to the one from Jank Tank 7. He's made no changes at all. It was a great list. It did really well. It's still got some really good techs in, given the meta, such as the Beelzemon, the Digivolve there. It's got a lot of recovery with the Petition. The Valkyrimon's good. I mean, Valkyrimon is one of those cards which is like, if you manage to kill their thing with Partition, Valkyrimon's effect, the -5, will then kill the things that Partition sprouts out. So I was really tempted to put Valkyrimon in my list because of that reason, but I spend so much of my time hiding in the raising that having an ace doesn't really matter until I've gone up to my level 6. So I just didn't bother with it. But yeah, this is Alex's list. You know, really, really good. We know how strong this list is, and I mean, I'm just saying, if we, I'm not saying we will, but if we click the buttons enough to get Charles and Alex to go up against each other, because A, they've not gone up against each other in ages, and B, they're both playing some form of Imperialdramon, I'm here for that. Next list is Leo. So Leo is playing Machinedramon. Now Machinedramon is an odd one for this Jank Tank Champions tournament, because A, obviously it's not a champion, not that that's a problem, but it's actually a deck that's not made an appearance in Jank Tank at all. I actually don't think we've ever filmed it on the channel. We've done one deck profile for Machinedramon, but we've not done any sort of gameplay of it, and we're now doing it for Jank Tank. But I think what makes it quite cool for the Champions Tourney specifically is A, it's potentially got a good matchup if it can get rolling against Imperialdramon. Obviously, it is quite slow. Imperialdramon's quite quick, but it has got de-digivolving stuff, and you know, so potentially it might be able to do some harm there. But the other cool thing is obviously Machinedramon's kind of a flagship Digimon, and is kind of always teetered around that rogue tier, jank tier kind of area. So it's great to finally show it off, and hopefully it'll do really well for Leo. In fact, it'd be highly ironic if he ended up winning the very map that he designed. That would be quite funny, but would also be quite a nice way of sending him off, because he's going off to live in London. He's got a studio job out there, I believe, and you know, he might not be around as much, which is quite sad, especially knowing how well he's good at designing the mats and stuff like that. But you know, mainly it's just sad to see a guy, you know, one of the OGs go. You know, so all the best of luck to you, mate, and hopefully we'll still see you around. Next is James. So James is playing Myotismon. Now James is the other player I offered Diaboromon to, but he ultimately couldn't build it in time. And either didn't see my messages for borrowing my Diaboromon deck, or ignored them because he doesn't like my list. I don't know. You never know. But it's probably just because he's busy. But you know, and he's a massive Myotismon fan, and we all know Myotismon's really strong. It's actually one of the decks I'm quite scared of with Marsmon, because I kill it, he just, oh look, you killed me, I'm back. Oh look, I delete you now. You know, so all these decks are quite scary for me. Obviously the big bad boy is Imperialdramon, and if Charles does win, please feel free in the comments to just spam "I told you so" as many times as you dare. I am here for you to do that. I challenge you to do that if Charles wins. I challenge you if Charles wins to do that. Obviously that we've got 7 deck lists at the moment. If there's anyone else who does participate tomorrow, I will be adding an additional bit after this bit here. And if nothing has happened after that pause, then no one else did, and we've got to buy. But we really hope you guys enjoy the Jank Tank Champions Tourney. We really hope you guys have enjoyed Jank Tank in general this year. And any ideas you guys have for improving it. So, say for example, any more rules that we might need to bring in. So I was thinking potentially about bringing in a no pro tags rule, so that we stop having decks where it's like, this deck will get support. Stuff like Imperialdramon, for example. You know, because all of that stuff will eventually get support, you know, in terms of it. But I mean, you could say that for any deck almost, but the pro tag decks are probably more likely to get support. Who knows? But there might be some ways we can further balance the format. And like I say, next year's Champions Tournament, because of the tier list system, will be a lot more balanced. But we'll get into our next match tomorrow, which I'll pop up on screen what that is. At the moment, because this is before the tournament, I do not know. So, you know, and so, you know, I can't advertise it. I just can't. I don't know what it's going to be. It could be Imperialdramon versus Red Purple Imperialdramon. It could be Marsmon versus Aegisdramon. Who the fuck knows? Except for Future Me. Future Me will know. So, like I say, I'll pop it up on screen. Hello, Future Me post-tournament. Just a couple of things before the video actually ends. First of all, thank you for watching, and we really hope you guys enjoy Jank Tank the Champions starting tomorrow. Basically decided to bring out everything in 1 week because it was a smaller tourney. So everything will be coming out this week. The other thing to mention is Jank Tank, as is tradition, has had technical difficulties with this tournament. So all of the matches will be commentary matches for the first time in forever. Because unfortunately the mics weren't turned on, and I was so busy sorting things out, organising things, and then playing, that I didn't notice at all for over 3 matches. So, sorry, but you're going to be getting commentary videos for Jank Tank the Champions, which, you know, I'll make them slightly shorter to watch, at the very least, because I'll be sped up. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoy this Champions Tournament, even though it's going to be a kind of a commentary series. And obviously, we'll try and make sure the mics are working for whenever the next Jank Tank tournament is. But anyways, hope you guys enjoy. Stick around for Red Purple Imperialdramon versus Aegisdramon tomorrow, and we'll see you then. Keep it digital.